informational program. The views and opinions expressed are not necessarily those of the staff, management, or advertisers of WOBL Radio.
The paranormal world is evolving. UFOs, psychic mediums, ghosts, and the unexplained have become part of the fabric of our lives. The S-Files is the next step in that evolution. I'm Matt Slies, founder and lead investigator with 111 Paranormal.
And I'm Laura Slies, psychic medium, empath, founder and lead investigator with 111 Paranormal. And this is the S-Files.
And good evening to you all. It is the S-Files on Lorain County Country, WOBL 107.7 FM, 1320 AM, and online, WOBLradio.com. Program number 11. Can you believe it? Of the S-Files. Matt Slies here of 111 Paranormal.
Laura Slies here of 111 Paranormal.
And?
John from WOBL.
Sponsored by Black River Crystal. How is everybody this evening? Good.
Yeah.
So last week we had Kathy and Greg Fakatic of the beautiful Ohio State Reformatory in Mansfield, Ohio. Thank you for joining us and telling us your stories, as well as letting us know about Parapsychon 5 coming up in May 2024.
We will be there.
And other exciting things coming to Mansfield Reformatory. Never a dull moment in Mansfield.
No. Wonderful place.
Fantastic. Our group goes there at least, 7 times a year?
It seems like it. At least once a year.
They should name a wing after us.
Yes.
Tonight's show, I'm going to put a disclaimer out. We are going to be edgy, slightly controversial. It might challenge your belief system in certain things regarding to history and the U.S. government. Ooh.
I'm scared now.
Actually, today it's from Roswell to JFK, the greatest lie ever told.
I mean, it could be lies, plural, but we went with lie.
Mm-hmm.
So the mystery of JFK's assassination started nearly 20 years before he became president. During post-war Germany, in 1945, Kennedy was a guest of Navy Secretary James Forrestal, where he witnessed secret technologies that are still being kept secret. Forrestal believed these technologies were from alien origin that Germany was attempting to use to control the world. So let's start right now. Let's talk about Mr. Forrestal.
So James Forrestal was Kennedy's mentor, one of his very good friends. And in 1947, he was named the first Secretary of Defense of the United States. So very high-ranking, very important man in history. John told us today that he knew that there was a carrier named after Forrestal. Mm-hmm. And that was really, I didn't even know that. That's really a cool story. So he was Secretary of Defense until 1949. He was fired because...
By Truman,
because he was sort of letting things slip about aliens and alien beings and what the government was doing with them and the fact that they existed. He also was, and we'll talk more about this in a little bit, he was also the leader of a committee that the government created called Majestic 12, which was a committee that was dedicated to looking into the UFO and alien situation in the United States.
Yeah. So, it's going to be a very, very tangled web we're going to weave tonight. A lot of intrigue, and you can be a part of it because we like to hear your thoughts on this, your theories. What do you think about Area 51, Roswell, JFK? And we're coming up on the 60th anniversary of JFK's assassination.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And there's talk, there was talk that, it was either the mob did it because of Bobby's persecution of the mafia. It was because of maybe Cuba. Mm-hmm. Or the CIA did it because he wanted to just splinter. He said he was going to splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So all that tonight. So please, anything, you know where to look for us?
That's right.
On our website, 111paranormal.com. We're on Facebook at 111paranormal OH. And send your comments and questions to TheSFiles at 111paranormal.com. Interesting show tonight.
Yeah,
right.
and go ahead.
I do want to say, go on the Facebook page, 111 Paranormal, because there is something going on with my hair tonight, and I don't know what it is, but there is something that is not of this world.
Did you use
happening with my hair?
Did you use product?
No, I don't use product. But maybe I should start.
I know it is.
I am due for an appointment at Great Clips.
Okay. Okay.
That could be it. But
time to make that happen, John.
There's just something that's not quite right about this. I need to go to the screen with just you two.
It could have been the tea you drank this morning.
Oh, there you go. That's right. You guys introduced me to oolong tea this
Jasmine
morning.
oolong tea, my favorite.
Yeah.
I did want to say that go ahead and feel free to send an email with your questions to the S-Files at 111paranormal.com, because I will be checking that to see if anything comes in. So please, if you are not joining us via Facebook Live, then send us an email at that address and we'll read your question on the air, as long as it's appropriate.
Right. So we're going to get started, but we're going to take a break first. You're listening to the S-Files. Show number 11, WOBL, Lorraine County Country, 107.7 FM, 1320 AM, and you can catch us online, WOBLradio.com. We will be back.
At Susan G. Komen, we believe that ending breast cancer needs all of us working together. Because if you've just been diagnosed and don't know where to turn, we've got you. If you can't afford the treatment you need, we've got you. And if you are driven to honor the loved one you've just lost, we have a place for you here. Because of you, we're supporting those who need help today while tirelessly searching for tomorrow's cures. Visit Komen.org and be a part of our Susan G. Komen community today.
Only 1 in 5 people with autism are employed, despite many having the skill set and desire to work.
Maybe it's because employers don't know what kind of jobs they can do. Like, what about a programmer?
That's a job for someone with autism.
How about a healthcare worker?
Yep, that is too. People with autism can do a lot of different jobs, but often get overlooked due to outdated stigmas. Introducing WIN by Autism Speaks. We help businesses lead the way in inclusive hiring.
What about a ranch hand?
To learn more, go to autismspeaks.org/win.
My dad, he's a double amputee, and he's one of my favorite people in the world. To me, a hero is someone who fights for our country and freedom. My dad is a hero. Homes for Our Troops built this house, and my dad can get through the wide doorways. He can reach anything.
Homes for Our Troops builds and donates specially adapted custom homes nationwide for severely injured post-9/11 veterans and enables them to rebuild their lives. Join our mission at hfotusa.org.
Hello, this is Dakota Layden,
Kelsey Layden,
Tanner Wiseman, and Alex Schrader. And you are listening to the S-Files. Dun, dun, dun!
Never gets old, never gets old. It is the S-Files on Lorraine County Country. And 111 Paranormal with you. And the S-Files is sponsored by Black River Crystal. During this chaotic period, more and more people are discovering the power of crystals and metaphysical New Age methods. Black River Crystal is the place to help you on your journey to balance your universe, past, present, and future. We offer a large variety of crystals, towers, spheres, raw and polished tumbles, amethyst, obsidian, selenite, moldavite, and much more. Reiki healing sessions, aura and tarot readings are available on site. We have a great staff that are ready to help you find what you need to balance your universe. Located at 23013 Sprague Road in Columbia Station, or call 440-941-3403. If you can't make it to our store, shop online 24/7 at blackrivercrystal.com or email questions to blackrivercrystal@gmail.com. So let's get into it.
Well, before we do that, I do want to say Happy Veterans Day to the vets out there. Thank you for your service. And I like to think that some of the folks that we're talking about tonight were some heroes in the armed forces because they came forward with things that, maybe they didn't get a lot of positive feedback for coming forward about. Yeah. And like Jesse Marcel, Lieutenant Colonel Jesse Marcel of the Air Force, who was the one at Roswell, and also the guy who ended up having to hold the balloon in the pictures. But people like that who had the guts to come forward. And we just want to thank you for your service, and we can move on now. I just wanted to make sure we said that.
Despite government protestations, yes, these guys are all heroes. So
yes.
Let's go back to the mists of time, to 1947.
Wait, didn't they do it like that at Wayne's World or something?
Right.
Okay.
Roswell. Now, I just had a good train of thought going here.
Sorry.
That's all right. Where it all began? Roswell, New Mexico, 1947.
We didn't finish talking about Jim Forrestal yet, though, because I wanted to talk a little bit more about him. And for anybody who's just joining us, Jim Forrestal was John F. Kennedy's mentor and good friend, and he started telling President Kennedy, before he was president, while he was in Congress, he started telling him about some of the things that he had experienced and seen after World War II. And a lot of that was having to do with alien technology. Forrestal, again, I'll say he was the head of the Majestic 12, and he got fired. He was... I guess you want to say discredited at some point. I mean, after being Secretary of Defense and being so high-ranking in the government, he was discredited with this series of articles in the papers nationally about him being fatigued and kind of, slipping in his duties and things like that. And he ended up going into an institution where, not long into his stay at the institution, the story that was publicly released was that he committed suicide by jumping out of a 16th story window at the institution. Many people believe that was not a suicide, that he was murdered. And so that's just some of the controversy around James Forrestal's death. And I don't know. I kind of think the guy was such a brain and just so amazing and intelligent, and I don't know that I believe that he committed suicide. I don't think I do.
Now, it's believed after Kennedy's election, he learned about aliens from President Eisenhower and received a warning about Majestic 12 that President Truman created, that they were getting a little too powerful.
Right. So Eisenhower, I mean, he's really deep in some of these conspiracy theories about knowing about UFOs in the government. And, I mean, Truman apparently was very upfront with Eisenhower about what was happening and the things that he had going with Majestic 12. And Eisenhower was all in on that stuff. So he knew about it. He felt that Majestic 12 was getting too powerful and that it was going to affect civil liberties. And he wanted Kennedy to kind of rein them in and keep an eye on them. And many of the Majestic 12 committee members were involved in the CIA, either were still serving in the CIA at that time or prior leaders or became leaders of the CIA afterward. And we'll talk a little bit more about what the Majestic 12 is, but definitely let's start with Roswell.
Yeah, we had to do a timeline, so we had to start somewhere. So let's go with Roswell, New Mexico, 1947. What happened?
So many people witnessed a crash, and the Army Lieutenant Colonel Jesse Marcel was one of the first people that was involved in going to the site. What's really weird is that was it the AP, the Wire, it was the one who carried the story first. Was it the AP or it might have been the local paper, carried the story first that said flying saucer crashes in Roswell, New Mexico, right? And that was the night it happened. The next morning, the paper retracted that story and then said, no, it wasn't a flying saucer, it was a weather balloon. And people who served, especially in the armed forces, who were at the site when right after this crash happened, they saw what years and years later, they said they saw things that they couldn't believe. They saw dead alien bodies. They saw one that was living. They saw three crafts that went down there, and that those things were all loaded up and moved eventually to Wright-Patterson first.
Dayton, Ohio.
And then to what we now know as Area 51. There were really some crazy things. I know that Lieutenant Colonel Jesse Marcel in the mid-'70s was doing some interviews where he said that, he confirmed the weather balloon story was a cover-up. And I believe that he was the one who gave his son a piece of material that was found at the site before the government came in and cleared everything. He gave his son this piece of material that was shiny. I would say, if you had to think about it, it almost looked like mercury. It had that liquidy kind of look to it, and or like aluminum foil almost. And he said his son and him like kind of crumbled it up like you would aluminum foil, and when they let go of it, it flattened back out and was completely creaseless. And they said that was what the ship was made of. So, I mean, how cool.
Mm-hmm. The basis for saran wrap.
Oh, not even close. Once that goes together, there's no getting that apart.
Yeah, that was second generation Terminator stuff right there.
We can find humor in this.
It's all coming together now. I'm seeing what's happening. Skynet is next thing. By the way, Marvin says hello.
Hi, Marvin.
Hey, Marvin. This is right up your alley, conspiracy theories right here.
Well, we know, there's so many people that did come forward years later that were sworn to secrecy back then that saw those things on the ground, that saw the marks in the earth where the plane skidded when it came down, because it didn't just, not plane, listen to me, the ship skidded as it went down because it was able, any other normal plane or normal thing that humans would have created would have completely disintegrated when it crashes like that. This thing didn't. It skidded across. So I just don't believe the story that it was a weather balloon. I don't believe that at all. Never have, never will. I believe they did get bodies, and I believe they did get a living, breathing alien that was alive. Now, what they did with that alien, who knows?
Well, speaking of living aliens, there is even talk that Eisenhower, according to his great-granddaughter, actually sat down and met with an alien. Mm-hmm. You heard that story too?
I've heard that. I've got a little story too, but go ahead.
Tell us your story.
Well, mine is actually, it's something I heard on the radio, and it was
it the S-Files?
Quite a few years back. No, this was pre-S-Files.
Pre-S-Files.
And it was something, I can't remember. I was trying to look it up because it was like a rock star, and I wanted to say, I was thinking it was Mick Jagger, but I don't know who it was. But their band got an opportunity to go to Area 51, and they said that they were all hyped about it and everything else, and the more they got closer to the date they were going, they were getting like more and more scared, and they said, okay, we're going to take you out there, and they put them in a bus with the windows all blacked out, and he described like driving for hours into the desert and everything in this bus that they couldn't see out of, and they ended up getting to hangars that were out there, and he said that they took us out and showed us, and he said there was alien spacecraft in there, and they saw the body of an alien, and they were told, you got an opportunity to see this, but you can't tell anybody about it and everything. And here he is on the radio telling people.
Oh my gosh!
But this was he said it happened like a long time ago, and he was talking about it. I want to say it was like the late '80s when I heard the interview with him and everything. And he said, they're telling me I can't do this, but I just think people need to know that we went and saw this. And whatever it was or wherever it was, they said, we can't, they wouldn't let us see for hours. So we don't know where we drove to, but that was where we were supposed to be taken. And he said the stuff they saw was just incredible. So
I have to think, when I think about or imagine how Area 51 must be, it brings to mind the movie Independence Day, and how, you go through this tunnel, and then all of a sudden, you're going, he's in the elevator, and it's going down and down and down and down, like, 20 floors below, where the Earth is, and then it's got this
data down there.
And I know, right? I know, he was down there, but I kind of think that's how it is, and
I agree.
that wouldn't surprise me if. I always wonder if Hollywood has some truth in some of those things.
Well, and the thing, we do try and make light of stuff and everything, because it can be a very serious topic, and it can be a dreading topic for some people. But you look, and there's all these strange things that kind of coincide with a lot of stuff that you've seen on TV and that. But you take it to that level where you're like, you go 24 hours, Independence Day. Well, and Men in Black, they had everything. But then you go back into the 50s, Get Smart. You get in the telephone booth, drop down 30 floors, and there you go. You were at this, top secret development facility and everything. And so
the cone of silence.
A wonderful thing.
Your tax dollar is at work.
That's right.
So speaking of the late 80s, so in 1988, 2 FBI officers received similar versions of a memo titled Operation Majestic 12, claiming to be a highly classified government document. The memo appeared to be a briefing for newly elected President Eisenhower on a secret government committee created to explore the recovery of an extraterrestrial aircraft and bodies, and instructions for keeping it covered up and keeping it from public examination. The document revealed the existence of an eyes-only secret committee with the highest security government clearance, even above the President of the United States. It suggests that there are people in the government who know aliens exist and walk among us.
Yes, the Majestic 12. That is a very interesting
name.
Well, name, but concept, because I will say the documents that we hear about and we see have never been validated, I guess I want to say, but there are people authenticated. There you go. But there are people who, like we watched a show today, and one of the individuals who was trying to authenticate it saw that some of the typing on it had a raised letter Z. And the person who worked in the type room at the Pentagon examined the document and said, yes, that would have come from one of our type rooms, because the Z would collect dust and always get raised when we would type out our briefings. So, things like that, you kind of wonder, like, how are they keeping all of this so quiet when you've got people that can authenticate and that do believe in this? And
this is before the laser printing days, where you actually had memos on carbon paper
and typeset, typewriter
so
kind of thing.
So it was very, very manual, very mechanical, and you'd think that some documents would leak or slip. There's all these. I always find it funny, top secret, and they put in red letters, top
secret. Yeah,
it's like,
or eyes only. That was the way they would say it. Eyes only was the way they would.
They would actually call attention to these documents that were supposed to be very secret.
Mm-hmm. Well, I do think. I lost my train of thought now. I do think. But just not at the moment. One of the biggest things that Majestic 12's responsibility was to control how people were perceived that believed or talked about UFOs. And that has stuck with us through how many years now, decades and decades of time, where if you talked about UFOs, you must have been a kook, you're crazy, you don't know what you're talking, or they would discredit people that would try to bring it forward. And I mean, that's gone away to some extent nowadays, because everyone has a camera in their pocket and can take a picture, and they can't hide it as well as they used to. But that still exists, where people talk about, that person's crazy, they're talking about UFOs again, and things like that. And like Dr. Stephen Greer, who runs, what is that, the program that he runs? I forget now.
SC5?
Oh, CE5. CE5, which is the contact, the fifth, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, which is communicating telepathically. Like, that guy is a genius. He is a trauma doctor, trauma surgeon, and I mean, not somebody to be taken lightly, but you see things about him. Oh, this guy's crazy. This guy's that, and they try to discredit him all the time. He's a very, very smart man, and I really do enjoy his ideas about how to communicate and things like that. But Majestic 12, really, their biggest task was to discredit people who talked about it and just try to bring it down so that others would not believe this situation.
So who was on the Majestic 12?
Well, that was some interesting folks. So as we talked about before, James Forrestal, who was the first United States Secretary of Defense, was sort of the leader of that group. Some of the other people on it were Dr. Vannevar Bush, who was chairman of the World War II National Defense Research Commission and Office of Scientific Research Development. So you can see you got heavy hitters in the world of science and government in this. Rear Admiral Roscoe, I can't even pronounce the last name, Hillenkotter, I believe it is.
That's right.
The director of the CIA. Air Force General Nathan Twining. Air Force General Hoyt Vandenberg, who was director of the CIA shortly before the group was created. Navy Admiral Sidney Sowers, who was the former director of naval intelligence and the first director of the CIA. And then Major General Robert Montague, who commanded atomic weapons research at a classified base in New Mexico, of all places.
So these 12 men...
Wait, we got more.
Oh.
I'm sorry. I missed my... Donald Menzel, who was a prominent Harvard astrophysicist and a professor, most famous for his attacks on the intelligence of UFO believers. There you go. That's where that comes into play. And Assistant Secretary of the Army, Gordon Gray, who would later become the CIA Psych Ops Chief.
So you've got a mixture of psychology, scientists, and military. So it's basically a good, what would you call a black op?
Okay.
Pretty much?
Yeah, I would say.
Early days, yeah.
Now, full disclosure, all these documents have not been verified. I'm sure the government's not going to say, yeah, those are ours. Yeah, absolutely. But, things do leak out. Things do, and that's what we're talking about tonight. Make up your own mind. Come to your own conclusions. And please join in on the conversation, because this really is, you want to get a good conversation going, anything to do with a government cover-up, perfect time. 111paranormal.com on our website. Follow us on Facebook at 111paranormal OH. And send your questions and comments to the S-Files at 111paranormal.com.
Before we, I know you're going to be going to break here soon, but before we do that, did want to say that, we were doing the full disclosure thing and said, of course, they're not going to say these are our documents. But yet these things are found in file cabinets that are being held in these areas, and people will break these out of there. And, why else would you be keeping them? I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, we found, 15 file cabinets full of these documents and everything that are, they're nothing. You found nothing. They're not there,
Yeah,
and everything.
yeah.
Like,
well, the first document, the Majestic 12 documents, that's like pages and pages of documents about that group, and that was delivered I forget who it was delivered to. There was his name was Bob Woodman or something. No, not the guy from
Watergate.
Not Watergate. But so it was delivered to him in a plain manila envelope with a New Mexico postage on it or stamp on it from the post office. And inside the envelope was another envelope that had a roll of 35 millimeter film in it. And when they got the film developed, that's what it was. It was pictures of these documents. So these documents do exist somewhere else as well.
Well, I was going to say, and that's the other thing, is that some of these documents, they find the documents, and then they find, like, the microfiche and stuff like that they used to use back then with the same stuff. And like I said, there's too much stuff that matches up there for them to say, it's really nothing. You're obviously keeping it and you don't want people to find it, but you don't want to lose it.
Yep.
And,
When we come back, and later in the program, we're going to talk about another document that has severe consequences, and this one was retrieved from a fire.
Yes, and we will tie all of this into what our show is talking about, which is how UFOs and the assassination of President Kennedy tie in. And
it's going to be more right here on Lorain County Country, WOBL 107.7 FM, 1320 AM, and online, WOBLradio.com. Riveting stuff. We'll be back.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers. So we build specially adapted homes at Homes for Our Troops. And thanks to our donors and supporters, this life-changing gift of freedom is provided mortgage-free to these veterans. But we need you to join us, too, in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
At Susan G. Komen, we believe that ending breast cancer needs all of us working together. Because if you've just been diagnosed and don't know where to turn, we've got you. If you can't afford the treatment you need, we've got you. And if you are driven to honor the loved one you've just lost, we have a place for you here. Because of you, we're supporting those who need help today while tirelessly searching for tomorrow's cures. Visit Komen.org and be a part of our Susan G. Komen community today.
Only 1 in 5 people with autism are employed, despite many having the skill set and desire to work.
Maybe it's because employers don't know what kind of jobs they can do. Like, what about a programmer?
That's a job for someone with autism.
How about a healthcare worker?
Yep, that is too. People with autism can do a lot of different jobs, but often get overlooked due to outdated stigmas. Introducing WIN by Autism Speaks. We help businesses lead the way in inclusive hiring.
What about a ranch hand?
To learn more, go to autismspeaks.org/win.
What's going on? I'm Dalen.
Man, it's the Paranormal Poppy Juwan, man.
And I am the Marcus Harvey. And we are the Ghost Brothers.
And you are tuned in to the S-Files, baby.
You gonna just give them a theme song?
I gave them a theme song.
I hope they copyrighted that. We are the S-Files tonight, presented by 111 Paranormal and Black River Crystal. Interesting stuff here regarding conspiracy theories from Roswell to Kennedy. Is there a connection? And I'm going to throw another name in there, too. I'm going to throw in 2 names.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say you got to do both.
Yes. Marilyn Monroe.
And Dorothy Kilgallen.
Dorothy Kilgallen. Now, my great uncle, I guess radio runs in the family because he was an engineer at WOR in New York City. And he knew Dorothy Kilgallen. And when Kennedy was assassinated, she took it really personally. We'll get into that a little bit. But she told my uncle, my great uncle, I've got news on this assassination that's going to just blow everyone's mind. And a month later, she died of mysterious circumstances. So it's
the exact same mysterious circumstances that Marilyn Monroe died of.
Wow.
Yeah.
Exactly the same, almost exactly the same setup in the room, too. So.
You want to say, from Marvin, who said, have you ever heard of Bob Lazar, Lazar? So I did a quick look up, and he is a guy that's been around and talked quite a bit about Area 51 and the hidden S4 government program, where he has described intel, propulsion systems for spacecraft, and a lot of other things. He's been all over the place. UFO legend And I guess there's a lot of these things you can watch on YouTube, and he's been all over television and was even with Joe Rogan and everything. And
I've heard the name. The name is familiar, yeah.
It says, gives a full account of alien spacecraft the government has hidden at S4, as well as details on their propulsion systems and how they work. So
they tried to reverse engineer all this alien technology. So that makes perfect sense. So Eisenhower leaves office. John F. Kennedy is the 35th president of the United States, and he tells President Kennedy about the Majestic 12. He warns President Kennedy that he needs to rein them in, that they've gotten too powerful. Something needs to be done. Again, this is where you get into the rogue element, maybe the beginnings of a shadow government. Again, Kennedy wanted to splinter the CIA. He didn't like it. They had a history with him and the Bay of Pigs, where he claimed the CIA lied to him. He was furious. He says, I'm going to disintegrate this entire organization. Well, the CIA, being a mixture of hardcore, fanatical government people, said, I don't think so.
Well, you know what I found interesting was Alan Dulles, who was the head of the CIA. Kennedy fired him.
Yeah.
And I found out today in some of the reading that I did that he was on the Warren Commission. He was part of the Warren Commission. And that just strikes me as so odd that they would bring in somebody who already had a grudge against Kennedy to see, if it was valid that Lee Harvey Oswald was the lone gunman who killed Kennedy,
They pushed that agenda. So Kennedy, being the type of man he is, believes people can handle the truth of everything. So he wants to get rid of Majestic 12 completely, along with shutting down the CIA, which they're parallel organizations almost.
The roots of MJ12 is CIA or vice versa, So it's very interesting. And
now, again, this is going to be a little unsavory here, folks, but Marilyn, I don't know if you guys know this, but Marilyn Monroe and JFK had a bit of a fling.
Marilyn Monroe and RFK had a bit of a fling, too.
And it was the theory goes that, well, we'll call it pillow talk, okay, where JFK told Marilyn Monroe about the happenings in New Mexico, about aliens and things like that. She thought that how the Kennedys treated her, because she thought that JFK was going to divorce Jackie and marry her. Well, obviously that wasn't going to happen. She was going to call a press conference.
Yeah, she literally called Bobby and told Bobby that she was the next day going to call a press conference and spill her guts on the UFO stuff and everything else. But first and foremost, she was saying the UFO. And what did she say? It was like the space, the alien or something. It was some weird way that she put it.
Plus, she also was recording Kennedy's as well, because she had a taping system in her house, and she was going to use those tapes as well.
Yeah.
So you're talking about a major, major, major scandal here.
Well, then that night, she died. That night.
She was friends with Dorothy Kilgallen, and she told Marilyn Monroe was friends with Dorothy Kilgallen, and so Dorothy Kilgallen heard the story, and then after the assassination, she was the only person to talk to Jack Ruby. And
she had exclusive rights, really, with Jack. Jack trusted her more than he trusted anyone. So she had done interview after interview with him, and he said, "You just need to get me out of here, to move me to a different location, like obviously not out of jail, but
out of Dallas."
Out of Dallas. And she was kind of in the middle of that, but she then, when whoever it was, we don't know who it was it Majestic 12? I don't know, that found out that she was having these meetings and knew some things about Kennedy that she probably shouldn't have known, and other government issues that were going on. They put a picture of her son, remember that? Her son on the paper.
New York Times. Playing in the park. And she took that as a warning. Wave off. Go away.
Leave it alone. And she just wasn't the type. She was like a pit bull. She wasn't the type to leave anything alone. So you want to tell more of that story?
She came home, she did her show. She did a show called What's My Line? And she came home from the show. This was in 1965. And the next day, her assistant found her in a bed she never slept in, reading a book she already read, with her reading glasses away. She still had her makeup and hairpiece on. And this was in February, and the air conditioning was on.
And the book was set... they said something weird about it was upside down in some awkward way. Like it wasn't a way somebody would, but it was supposed to be like she was reading the book and set it down,
and
right?
Fell asleep.
But it wasn't anything like the setup in the room was not right.
And here's the chilling thing: all her files gone.
Gone. Yeah, gone.
Interesting.
So I mean, we've talked about many. Over the years, Matt and I have talked about many different ways that Kennedy could have gotten to this point, and who could have done it. And like we said, the mob or the CIA, right? There's so many different theories, but I just started thinking a little bit about this and thought, well, we do this paranormal thing. I wonder if it has anything to do with UFOs. Then I start doing some research on it and find, wow, there's a lot of people who do believe that same thing. Mm-hmm. And even we watched Ancient Aliens, and season 12. Season 12, episode 9 is all on the Majestic 12. And Linda Howell, who is probably been doing paranormal journalism for, I want to say, almost 30 years now. She's also been seen on The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. I mean, she's famous. She had some documents. She had the Majestic 12 documents along with some other documents.
And these in particular.
Yeah. Well, you could tell the story, but I'm just saying that she truly does believe that that's the reason why John F. Kennedy was assassinated.
They retrieved some documents out of a fire, a Majestic 12 memo, and it was a code, and it basically was just in government lingo, if you will. They said, a Lancer is getting too close. Now, Lancer was Kennedy's
Secret Service code name.
It was Lancer. And they said he's getting too close. If the situation doesn't change, precipitation, things have to get wet, which is Cold War language for
blood.
He's going to die.
Yeah. So really crazy stuff. And they did try to have that letter authenticated as well.
They actually have burn in the fire, and it got pulled out.
And they did say that the burn marks were the burn marks on there are the way it would have been if a handful of papers were thrown into a fire. Like it burned from this one part and then kind of spread out at the top. So you could still read the memos and everything. But this is, some crazy stuff. I mean, people who use that letterhead and made memos like that have said, yes, we believe this to be an accurate document.
The paper we used was the paper that was around in the 1960s.
Yes.
So it's an I mean, anyone have a theory on this? Please hit us up on our Facebook page, comments. I mean, this is a very, very, pardon the pun, fiery topic.
I was talking earlier about, I thought it was Mick Jagger that might have done that and everything. And I was looking it up. I haven't found any verification on that, but I did find this. And it was, they said it is actually written in this book. It's an older book called Extraterrestrial Research, Alien Rock, the Rock and Roll Extraterrestrial Connection. And they name a lot of different artists that have had beliefs and everything. And they said that Mick Jagger is a total believer, and back in 1968, he was on a camping trip in Glastonbury and saw what he described, and no one thought of it at the time because everyone was in the flying saucers. Mick Jagger said he saw a cigar-shaped ship.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
And I said that he saw it. After he saw it at several other places, including some Stones concerts.
Oh, wow.
And it said that he has put a UFO detector in his home. They said it's been said that he has a UFO detector in his home that picks up high electromagnetic waves, which regularly go off when he's not there.
Huh.
Maybe he's an alien.
That's interesting. Oh, the cigar-shaped is a really popular one that people see.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, we were watching a show today where there was a gentleman from UK, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And he was a hacker. And he hacked into the Pentagon.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things he downloaded were the schematics and pictures that they had documentation on cigar-shaped UFO that was retrieved.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mike Pender from the Moody Blues, I had a conversation with him years ago, and he's a firm believer in UFOs, and he said the Moody's and him were driving in a van in England after a gig at 2 o'clock in the morning, and a UFO was hovering over their van and like chased him down the M1 for like 10, 15 miles and then flew back up in the air. And I was like, and back in 1994, I was like, that's nice. That's interesting.
you're like, they're crazy.
Yes.
Because that was Majestic 12's goal in life, was to make others like us think, oh, if someone talks about it, then they're crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And to some extent, that did work.
We're going to take a quick break here. I want to tell you about Black River Crystal, because the S-Files, do you believe it, is sponsored by Black River Crystal.
Mm-hmm.
During this chaotic period, more and more people are discovering the power of crystals and metaphysical New Age methods. Black River Crystal is the place to help you on your journey to balance your universe, past, present, and future. We offer a large variety of crystals, towers, spheres, raw and polished tumbles, amethyst, obsidian, moldavite, and much, much more. Oh, selenite, too. Reiki healing sessions, aura, and tarot readings are available on site. We have a great staff that are ready to help you find what you need to balance your universe. Located at 23013 Sprague Road in Columbia Station, or call 440-941-3403. If you can't make it to the store, don't worry. You can shop online 24/7 at blackrivercrystal.com or email questions to blackrivercrystal@gmail.com. Speaking of questions, send us your questions and comments to the S-Files at 111paranormal.com. Follow us on Facebook at 111paranormal OH, and check out our website, 111paranormal.com. I don't say www anymore because I was told I sound old when I do that. So
I took it off the copy.
good for you, because I read what you put in front of me.
That's right.
You know?
That's what I figured.
I'm old-fashioned. I'm going to just real quick. It's 9:47 already.
Wow.
This has gone by really quick.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's an interesting topic. I mean, it makes my brain hurt because the level of a lot of effort to keep secrets that are already coming out. It's just, it boggles my mind, really. You know, especially if you think back in the 40s and 50s and 60s, where, again, as I said, everything was documented, everything was manual. You know, there was a lot more effort to keep things secret. I mean, now, I can't remember my password half the time. You know, it's crazy. Anybody chiming in?
Don't have a lot going on there, but folks, again, if you want to write in, we'll pass it along and see what's going on.
Somebody's got to have an opinion on this. Because
I was looking at that, what I was talking about just a moment ago with Mick Jagger, and they were talking about there's all these other rock stars and everything, and they said one of the things that's interesting is if you ever talk to David Bowie, which they were talking about in there. Of course, you can't do that now.
Unless you had a Ouija board.
Yeah. But they said that anytime that he went somewhere, he never wanted to talk about being in a plane. He always said that he'd rather take a saucer. And everything.
There's truth to Ziggy Stardust from Mars.
What I think is crazy is that, not crazy, but is weird that we've been hearing sort of these rumblings that come out in the press about the different presidents and how they've all sort of approached wanting to know what's going on with UFOs. So yeah, they at this point, and for the last probably 30 years, they've kept these things from the president, which is the exact thing from Independence Day when he says, when Bill Pullman playing the president says, "Why didn't I know about this?"
Mm-hmm.
And the guy says, "Plausible deniability," right?
Right.
But we've seen interviews with like Obama, Clinton, I think Bush too, Bush the second, who also like had said up front, "Oh yeah, we're going to find out, what happened, or like even who killed Kennedy."
That's what I was going to say. There's two topics that the presidents always ask for. One, what's Area 51 like? And number 2, who killed Kennedy? And no president so far. I mean, Trump was supposed to get the files opened, last year? Or when?
Well, he was another one who said, he's going to try to get them released. Biden then, early in his first term, I think, said he was going to do the same. And they did release some in December of 2022, but there are still just under 5,000 documents. They've released thousands, hundreds of thousands of documents.
Redacted, of course.
Very redacted, yes. But there are still, I just read this yesterday, there are 5,000 documents that are still pending release that have to do directly with the CIA and Kennedy's assassination.
See, these documents come out, and they're like, you look at them, and you're like, well, that's a nice shade of black marker.
Yeah, exactly.
They really wanted to keep this one out. It's a crazy how that whole level works. I'm
reading this story, and I read it earlier today, and I wanted to bring it up. It's just as talking about the presidents and stuff. It's this gentleman who wrote a book about JFK, UFOs, and the assassination. And one of the things he writes is just before beginning his first term on January 20th, 1993, President-elect Bill Clinton made a very strange request to close family member or family friend and lawyer Webster Hubbell. If I put you over there in justice, I want you to find the answer to 2 questions for me. 1, who killed JFK? And 2, are there UFOs? And it's funny, every one of those people and I know Trump wanted it too, like you said. I know Hillary, when she was running, she was on a talk show, and she said, I want to find out the answers to, the UFO thing. And we saw Obama.
We played that clip.
Yes, we played that one before, where he says, what does he say? He says something.
They tell us to say that.
Yeah, he says, oh, no, they don't exist. And Jimmy says, oh, yeah, really? And he says, no, they just tell us to say that. And he had a dead serious face when he said it. So we're like, look at it. We just looked at each other when we saw that.
And here's something else that's really freaky. In all of national security, President Kennedy's brain has gone missing.
Yeah, there was a pathologist who was allowed to, I guess it was in the 70s, mid-70s, they were allowing one person to examine the things that Jackie had donated to the archive. And so he was, this pathologist was able to go in and do that, and he found that Kennedy's brain was missing. And this gentleman believed that there were 2 shooters. He said there was no way that the injury that happened to Kennedy could have been done because the bullet would have gone up the way the Zapruder film showed. The bullet would have gone up. And there was no way that could have happened from a 6th floor book depository window. He believed that it was somebody standing by the fence on the grassy knoll. And there were witnesses that said that they not only saw someone, they heard the gunshots, and they smelled the gunpowder right in that area.
And then just one more thing to relate to close this out. We watched a National Geographic documentary on 60 years since Kennedy, and this is unheard of. It actually had Lee Harvey Oswald face the press. He actually had a press conference, and one of the reporters said to him, well, you're charged with killing the President of the United States. And the look on his face was like incredulous, like, what? What? It was weird.
Well, here's the thing that I thought was weird. On that same documentary, we have time, right? Yeah. On that same documentary, I did not realize that Lee Harvey Oswald was 24 years old when he was accused of this. Now, this is from a guy who had been an agent, had been trained as a marksman, had defected to Russia, had married a Russian bride who was the daughter of a high-ranking KGB official, and then was easily let back into the country after 10 months in Russia. I mean, how do you explain that kind of stuff?
You can't make it up.
It's just such a weird, all these coincidences. Come on, I don't know.
It's weird because you start thinking all these different things in your head.
Yes.
And, I've talked before about some of the late night programs I've listened to with people and everything. And I've heard things that them saying, people talk about the world is running out of fossil fuels. And they're like, oh, don't worry, they're going to give us what we need when we run out or when we get in serious shape. They're not going to let us hang. They've got the technology out there, and of course they're talking about the extraterrestrials
yes,
and everything. So they're saying that we're going to get it, but they're just not going to give it to us till we get to a point where we really need it. And I'm wondering if we're getting to that point, and it's them putting pressure on. We don't want people to know about us. We don't want this and want that. And then, so if you guys can keep it quiet, we're going to take care of you. If you don't keep it quiet, you're on your own.
Yeah, because we all know, humans would, just go crazy if they knew that aliens were living with us. I mean...
living with, in Men in Black, right there.
Right, exactly. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was a very, very, very... interesting topic. I can talk about this stuff all night because it makes you have to wonder, the government's supposed to protect and serve. You have to wonder. I mean,
well, and I don't think that Kennedy was, if this is the reason why, if it was because of UFOs and letting the public know and leaking that out, I don't think that's why Kennedy would have been targeted. I think because if he would have told the public, then other governments in the world would have known. So Russia and China and Japan and UK, they would have all known what technology we had or had access to, and that would have caused a problem. And it's not that the people would know, it's that those governments would know. And that's my take on that. And that was why he was silenced.
Remnants of the Cold War. Wow. What's next on the S-Files in the coming weeks?
Well, we're going to have BAM Paranormal with us coming up on November 25th. And Brian from BAM Paranormal is an engineer who creates investigation devices. And we're looking forward to having he and his mom come on and bring some stuff that we can check out, and maybe we'll try them out in the studio since we know the studio is haunted. So maybe we'll try a couple of them out or put one out in a couple of the different rooms or something.
I know the phone flasher keeps flashing is freaking me out a little bit tonight for some reason. I don't know who's that. I'm waiting for some veteran, some retired Air Force guy saying, "Be quiet. Don't talk anymore. You don't know what you speak of." No. We're just humble investigators, and like everybody else, we want to know the truth, and the truth.
Just be careful they haven't stormed the station yet.
No, let's not do that. This is
Will
all.
You walk us out, John?
Also, too. So coming up in December.
I'm gonna wait till you guys go on.
I know, right? Coming up in December. Made it to the car. On the 4th is Carlo Zuzek, who owns and runs Haunted Beale Manor in
Fremont,
Ohio. And we've been there a number of times and had some just crazy active nights and experiences there. And we are looking forward to Carlo.
And the ghost, too.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. Let's not talk about that on air. And then, so Carlo will be joining us. And then right before Christmas, which is perfect timing, we will have John Ward, author of the Scareville books, joining us. And I know that he's got, I believe it's the 3rd book coming out or may already be out. That's a Christmas book. So just in time, we'll have him on to talk about the Scareville books, which is like a Goosebumps series. It's getting a lot of acclaim, and we're excited to have John join us and talk about it.
And I think we're going to have 111 Paranormal, some of our team members come on and
love that.
And share their evidence and experiences and everything.
And why they're investigating.
Yeah. And we're on the radio, guys, so you got to,
Okay, so let's do this. Word of the night
S.
for S.
First, Marvin's been with us all night.
Oh, yes.
Thank you, Marvin.
He said great show. So.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Marvin. Thank you.
Great listener. It's okay. The closing, we have 30 seconds left. What does the S stand for?
Secrets.
I'm going space.
Nice. Yeah. Shadow.
As in shadow government?
As in shadow government.
Nice.
You've been listening to the S-Files on Lorain County Country, 107.7 FM, 1320 AM, and online, WOBLradio.com. We will see you soon on the S-Files. Take care, everybody.
The proceeding was a paid informational program. The views and opinions expressed were not necessarily those of the staff, management, or advertisers of WOBL Radio.
1320 AM and 107.7 FM. WOBL over.